Hi everyone, I am Anne, and today I want to share with you something different than photography or drawing on paper. I first started with glass engraving, and I made this. The title says engraving glass for the very first time. It depends on how you look at it, because before I worked on this vase, I made this. It's the same rose, but on a smaller scale and on an empty perfume bottle. It was more intended as an exercise and to get a feel for the rotary tool before I started my first real project. Anyway, whether you see the perfume bottle as the first project or this vase, I'm still a beginner and have no experience other than watching YouTube videos on this subject. Strangely enough, I lost the footage where I traced the outline of the rose onto the glass. I did that with carbon paper. Surprisingly, that works very well. I taped a sketch of the rose with a piece of tape where I wanted it on the glass, put carbon paper underneath it, and traced the lines with a ballpoint pen. Let's now take a look at how I did the engraving. Engraving is quite a mess, so don't forget to wear a dust mask and safety glasses and long hair out of the way in a ponytail. Since I don't want my studio and the whole house of glass dust, I've set up a cozy spot in the garden under the canopy. I even pretended I'm not afraid of the spiders outside. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can vaguely see the blue outlines on the glass of the carbon paper. Listen to the beautiful sound of nails on the blackboard. It's just a matter of trying what works best for me, at what angle I want the glassware, how the light can best illuminate my work, that sort of things. What I'm doing here is setting the contour lines permanently on the glass with a green carbide stone so that the lines don't fade when I wipe over it with water. I put something under the black cloth so that the vase is slightly slanted, but not visible under the engraving. When I have filled the contour lines with the green stone, I changed to my largest diamond bit. I used it in combination with water. That constant changing of the bits and burrs can be quite irritating, because they all have different size and therefore I have to constantly change the attachment as well. Most of what I know about glass engraving I got from Leslie Pike's YouTube channel and a fantastic beginner's guide from What Katie Made Next. Based on that, I knew roughly what I needed to start engraving. Here in the Netherlands, there's relatively little information about glass engraving. Diamond bits were no problem, but finding different hardness polishing rubbers and Arkansas stone was a disaster. I haven't been able to find specialists here. It often happens to me that I'm looking for something and in my head it's not that specific at all, but apparently no store employee knows what I'm talking about or where I could find it. Eventually, I found out that you can replace Arkansas stone with a dentist stone, and I was able to find it along with the polishing rubbers on AliExpress. You may wonder, if it's so hard to find information or material about it, how did you come up with the idea to start engraving glass in the first place? Frankly, I have no idea how I came up with that. It's a typical example of how messy my brain is. My creative mind usually works in phases of serious obsessions that I can suddenly become completely absorbed in, but also lose interest in just as quickly. At the moment I see engraving everywhere. The glasses in my house are no longer safe for their lives. The only hobbies that stick around for a long time are drawing and photography. I really enjoy engraving, but when I see how quickly the polishing rubbers wear out, I'm afraid it will become too expensive as a hobby for me in the long term. But we will see. I switch from the diamond to a green carbide stone. I fill in the rest of the rose with that. At first glance it seems that all the lines disappear and I only have one large white surface on my vase. But because the parts I did with the diamonds are a bit deeper, you can still tell the different petals apart. The green carbide stone is slightly darker than the diamond bits, and in my opinion it has a slightly more even result. I thought the rose was an easy subject to start with, but oh dear, what was I wrong. It's difficult to get smooth gradation between the different diamonds and stones. The size of your burrs make a difference. I don't have really big diamond burrs, so just like a paintbrush with thick paint, you see every mark you put down on the glass. So it might have been better to go for small objects or something that has already more texture of its own, like a furry animal. At one point I thought, let's bring some definition back into the petals by polishing some areas. So I switched to a grey polishing wheel, but the contrast was just a bit too high. So I thought I'd get a yellow rubber, but the yellow one is very soft and it left rubber dust that I couldn't get out of the engraving easily. I found it difficult to determine which rubbers to use in which situation. The rubbers have different hardnesses, that all works differently. Finally I thought, this is a problem for the future me. Let me first fill in the rest of the rose with a green carbide stone. The quality of the glass also plays a major role in the outcome of your work. Hard glass, such as vegetable jars, seem to be terrible to work with, but lead crystal, on the other hand, seems to work best. Unfortunately, that's also the most expensive option at the same time. But sometimes you can get lucky at a thrift store or flea market. My reference photo had some dark shadow areas. I fill it in with the dentist stone, it's also known as a pre-polisher. It's the stone with the darkest color, and it's easy to polish to the most transparent, so darkest end result. From here you can see that different rose petals got separated again. Because it's a dentist stone and not an official Arkansas stone for glass engraving, the stone is quite small. While this is normally intended to prepare surfaces for polishing, with such a small stone it's difficult to get a smooth gradation between the highlights and the shadows. If anyone has any suggestions that can help me with this, please let me know. To soften the roughness, I switched back to the green carbide stone after polishing. This time I engrave in the same direction as the natural lines that run across the rose. That makes it a bit more realistic to look at. Then I try again to soften the transition with the dentist stone before I polish it again. Engraving with glass is often a matter of switching between the different burrs and rubbers until you have the end result that you like. Especially in the beginning when you are just starting out, it takes a while to figure out how you can work as effectively as possible. After polishing, I want to add some highlights and touch up any rough edges with the diamond bits for the finishing touch. And for a moment I thought I was done. Remember when I said I pretended I wasn't afraid of the spiders in the garden? Busted. This little guy freaks me out. This dark area to the left of the center of the rose really bothers me, although it was black in the reference photo. So the next day I decided to adjust that part. What appears natural in a photo sometimes doesn't translate very well in your artwork. But after that I thought it was enough and I was afraid to screw up more than I could improve on, so I let it be. So that was it. It didn't turn out quite the way I had in my head, but I can't expect it for a first time either. How do you think this turned out? What should I engrave next? Let me know in the comments below. Have a nice day Until next time.